PBKC is your entertainment destination for poker, table games, OTV, Paddock live events, and exceptional eats. The Paddock Restaurant is perfect for meetings, corporate functions, parties, fundraising, and more. Call 561-683-2222 extension 199 and book your next event today. The Big Game Party is back in the Paddock Restaurant on February 8th with a $45 all-you-can-eat buffet, beer bucket specials with over 140 HD TVs and 3 huge screens. This is how the big game was meant to be. For more information, go to pbkennelclub.com. It's Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock. You know what that means. It's PBKC Picks broadcasted live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club here in West Palm Beach, Florida. My name is Mike Jameson. To my right is the president of PBKC, Mr. Pat Rooney.
How are you, Mike? Another boring weekend in sports.
Yeah, nothing to talk about. We'll be talking about all these off-the-wall sports like basketball and baseball and hockey. But right behind Pat is Earnest Christian. He does a bunch of podcasts, and he also deals poker. What's up, Ernest?
I'm bored. I'm really bored. I'm so bored, dude.
And behind me is
Cancun
Noah.
stinks.
I'm actually bored. I don't know what it feels like to be out of the playoffs at this stage.
He's in
of the
Cancun.
game. So,
Yeah,
Cancun.
this is new territory.
I do.
We're all together now in Cancun, all four of us hanging out,
Exactly.
at the bar.
Congratulations,
the tiki
everybody.
bar.
Rooting
Okay.
for my demise.
Yeah, we all were, and it happened. Now we're going to talk about the big game party, and that big game party is coming up on February 8th in the Paddock. There is no better deal in town. We also have a great special, a bucket of beer free with $25 or more bet place day of at PBKC with that Hard Rock Bet app. Hard Rock Bet is our marketing partners, and if you want to bet on that app, we're going to tell you how to do so later if you haven't already signed up at the big game party. No matter what your team is, there's no better place to watch the big game. February 8th in the Paddock, and let's jump right into the NFL news. The coaching carousel continues to spin out of control in the NFL.
We need music for this, actually.
We
Some
do.
carousel music.
See, I looked this up. I thought it was a year like we've never seen before. There's been a record-tying 10 head coach changes. That also happened in 2022. It happened in 78, 97, and 2006. Let's go over the new stuff that's been going on. So the Atlanta Falcons, they hired Kevin Stefanski. That's the former Browns coach. Baker Mayfield, that's Noah's boy, has already said he can't wait to lose to him twice in a season now.
I'm waiting for him to respond. I tweeted at him. He didn't respond yet, so waiting to hear. Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins hired the defensive coordinator for the Packers, Jeff Hafley. The Giants got their guy in Harbaugh. The Titans, Robert Saleh from the 49ers. Any big surprises so far in the hirings, Pat?
I wouldn't say there's any super surprises. I thought believe it or not, Tennessee hiring Saleh, it didn't seem like they really interviewed a ton of people. Not that job is super appealing. I mean, you do have Cam Ward there, and but there isn't like a history of long coaches there or anything like that. So I was a little surprised that they went with a retread in Saleh instead of just getting a young guy to, coordinator or something to maybe grow with Cam Ward. All the other ones, Harbaugh going to the Giants wasn't a surprise. Stefanski going to the Falcons, again, he's a retread. I thought the Falcons might with Penix there, and I don't know what's happening with Cousins, but that might have been a better fit for again a younger guy to go there. But not that Stefanski's old, but he's already got sort of a track record with Cleveland. Whether that's good or bad is another point. But no, I think it's pretty much gone the way I think most of these cyclings go, where teams sort of pinpoint a guy that they like, and then they go after him. And other teams, want to be more deliberative and really scan the field, so to speak. And I know they're waiting. A bunch of these teams, I think, are waiting for the Rams and Seattle and the other teams to get out of the playoffs so they can formally interview, not just over Zoom, some of their assistant coaches. So I think once this week is over, and then obviously once the Super Bowl is over, I think the rest of these dominoes fall.
No surprise here, because the two biggest names on the market last week took the two biggest jobs, the most sexiest jobs, which is the Falcons and the Giants. I am curious, though, like where the rest of the guys go. I think Baltimore has been quiet since they interviewed Brian Flores. I think one other guy they interviewed last week, but nothing on the front there. I wonder if they're waiting for Seattle as well and the teams that are currently playing for the Super Bowl this weekend. But no surprises really on that front. I'm sure we'll touch on it in a second, but I am really fascinated at the Buffalo job because Brian Daboll is going to be interviewing with them, I think, today or tomorrow.
Whoa.
So, which I predicted like 2 days ago, by the way. When the minute they fired McDermott, it's like, yep, Daboll's going to get that job probably. So I'm just saying the top tier of the coaches that were available last week is already gone. So now you have all the, you say retreads or unknowns, like the half-leagues of the world. I mean, come on, no one knows half-league was unless you live in Green Bay. So we'll see how that goes. Arizona's been very quiet. All the other teams that have vacancies, the Raiders, very, very quiet right now. So we'll see how the next 2 weeks goes.
It's always amazing to me the rush that everybody's in. Season ends, we got to get our coach and get him in now. And it seems like we rush to things sometimes to make these decisions. And then you have the personalities that move around. And certain personalities fit in certain cities and some do not. Like you couldn't take McDaniel and put him in Green Bay or New York. That's not going to work. He goes out to California, and that's a good spot for him. He's a little eclectic himself, and he'll fit in with the L.A. vibes out there, and that's a good spot for him as an assistant. Yeah, Miami hiring the general manager or hiring a general manager from Green Bay and then him immediately bringing in the coordinator to be their coach. I've never been a fan of that. Like, oh, well, bring me and bring our guy. And you start looking at, okay, the first thing I look at when somebody hires a coach from assistant coordinator is, okay, where were they the past 5 years in their scheme? Where if you're a defense coordinator, where did your defense finish? And this guy's in like 10, 15, 18 as a defense coordinator. Like, okay, there's 10 other better defense coordinators out there that you could have had to be your head coach. Like, why did you pick this guy? And that always surprised me a little bit. I'm surprised to hear you're talking about Daboll to Buffalo. There was I did a little research and reading up on how teams they're starting to get a little more panicky with coaching. If you don't start producing and heading and trending towards a Super Bowl, they're ripping it off and throwing the next guy in there. Philadelphia did that. Peterson wins the Super Bowl, and then next year had a down year, then he's fired the next year. But I don't think teams are going to have the appetite anymore to go 10, 12, 15, 18 years before you finally make the Super Bowl. I mean,
there's some of that, but the thing is that stability still matters, right? It should matter.
What is that?
Stability still matter, right? You think? It
works. At some point, winning matters. I mean, you could have stability. You don't get.
Okay. So the Bills didn't win a Super Bowl.
There's no trophy for stability.
So McDermott was there 9 years, right?
Oh, good.
9 years. Okay.
Yeah.
He did win, right? He did win a playoff game every single year he was there.
Right.
So not everybody can win a Super Bowl every year. You know what I'm saying? I guess you get panicky with what you want, but then you have. Again, the teams like I hate to pick on the Browns here, but the Browns and Jets, they do this every 2-3 years on a cycle. The Cardinals team worse, and they're no better for worse. So,
right. So you get stability in New York now with Harbaugh, and what's your opinion? Are you fine if 8 years from now he doesn't win a Super Bowl?
Well, it depends on where they're at. Are they at least trending the right way? Are they competitive?
Oh, yeah, they're competitive. They make the playoffs. They win the first round. They lose in the second round for the next 8 years. Are you happy
I
with
think
that?
my thing is I don't like change for the sake of changes. It never, or hardly, I don't say never, it hardly works. And that's my biggest issue with that.
Right.
So it looks like Mike McDaniel is going to be the offensive coordinator at the Chargers.
That's
I believe he did pick up that job. Somebody was saying it's because of the fact that they do have Justin Herbert as the quarterback. But, Pat, we haven't been able to talk to you since some of these big firings have happened, including Mike McDaniel, which we weren't that surprised about. McDermott was someone that got fired that a lot of people are talking about right now. And, of course, stepping down of Mike Tomlin. Of the teams that are still available that are looking for coaches, the Cardinals, the Ravens, the Bills, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Steelers. What organization do you want to go to?
Well, I think you want to go to a team that has a quarterback. As we've talked about many times on this podcast, the quarterback to me is the most important position in sports, in all sports. If you don't have one, you're just pedaling in the wind here. You're not going to end up where you want to go, which is the Super Bowl. So the teams that you just mentioned, Buffalo, and there's one other that has a quarterback.
The Baltimore.
So those are the two teams that have a quarterback. In my opinion, that's where you go for like a Mike McCarthy or somebody that has a little experience, maybe has a Super Bowl winning experience, and can do whatever he needs to do to get that quarterback over the hump of Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen into the Super Bowl. I would not personally want to go, if I'm a young guy, necessarily to a spot like that, because in a way, the quarterback in those two situations has been there a long time. So they're going to be running the show to some extent. If you're a young guy, they're going to be like, here's what I want to do. And maybe that's not what you as a young guy want to do, but you're going to have to defer to them in some aspect of it. So I think the two most appealing jobs are Buffalo and Baltimore because they have a quarterback. The other jobs, like the Steelers, is appealing because there's a history there that they're going to give a long runway to a coach. So that's appealing. But the Steelers don't have any players right now. They really don't. Their good players are all old and probably need to move on somewhere else. And the only real good young players they have some on the offensive line, and the defensive guy they took from Oregon, Harmon, is a good defensive lineman. That's kind of it. Their secondary is relatively old. Their linebackers are okay, but getting older, and you don't have any receivers, and running backs only have a short lifespan anyway. So the two running backs they have are probably getting towards the end of their useful life in football. So that's the unappealing part of a place like Pittsburgh. Then you talked about Arizona and Cleveland, some of those other places like that. Well, they have, like Earnest is talking about, long histories of losing. So, and they don't have quarterbacks generally at those places. So that's one where if you're the owner of that team or the GM or whoever's going to make that decision, then you could pick anybody. You could really, if you wanted to get somebody that's been around and has had some success, then you could bring that and try to get that culture into those organizations, or you could go completely young. But if you're going completely young without a quarterback, you have to give that guy some time, number one, to get his quarterback, and then to see if they can build around them. So I would say Buffalo and Baltimore are the two most appealing jobs. Now you have some stuff you're going to have to deal with, like we talked about or alluded to. The GM there just got a promotion in Buffalo.
Ridiculous.
So the guy that built that team, and in my opinion, lost a lot of the talent around Josh Allen over the last few years, has now been promoted. So he's obviously got some strength there with the owner. So do you want to go in a situation like that where a guy who was responsible for buying the groceries didn't really buy the groceries over the last few years? That's the problem going into Buffalo.
Yeah, there was some talk about McDermott being fired because of his complaints about the roster. Do you feel like McDermott really deserved that?
Sure, I don't deserve. I think he's valid. Now you can fire him just because you got to a point where you felt like he just wasn't getting them closer to the Super Bowl. That's fine. But he has a absolutely legitimate argument there in that if you look at their roster over the last couple of years, it ain't as good. Their receivers are not as good as they were just a couple of years ago. And that's, for a guy like Josh Allen, that's big. He can only do so much himself, and he tried to do that, but it still didn't get them past the divisional round. So McDermott has a beef there. If I'm a Buffalo fan, my whole thing is, why didn't you get rid of Bean, the guy that was responsible, and then start again from scratch with GM and the coach? Then again, I think fans are not that stupid. They're willing to be like, all right, we understand where you're going here. To me, if I'm a Buffalo fan, I have no idea what they're doing promoting a guy that didn't do his job. So I don't know, but you still have Josh Allen, so that's a biggie. He's still basically in his prime. You probably got another 3 good years out of him, so hopefully they can get somebody in there that knows what they're doing with him and can deal with whatever the situation is with the GM and become successful that way.
That's the thing with the jobs for Buffalo and Baltimore specifically, is that you step in those jobs, the pressure rises immediately, because both teams, despite being disappointed this year, they're still Super Bowl favorites next year, including Baltimore. So there's a pressure there. I was thinking about this, though, Pat. You mentioned, you talking about the Steelers and their situation. I've been a football fan 36 years. I just realized something. This is probably the first time you actually might see a real rebuild for this franchise in probably 30 years. Not even joking. Because this team, as I told you, the worst I've ever seen this team go in my years watching football was 6-10. That was I think 91. And other than that, they never bottom out. They never bottom out because they're always competitive. So this is actually the first time I really believe, and I said last week on the podcast, I see a world next year where the Steelers are worse than the Browns next year, record-wise. Because I think they're getting older. Tomlin's gone. You don't know who the coach is going to be. I think this is a real chance, as you mentioned, even for the last year, that, I'd rather go 4-13 and have a direction. You may get that maybe be reality this year, because I think they're getting too old. If I'm the Steelers, I try to trail some parts, trail Jalen Ramsey, and maybe look at T.J. Watt also too, as possibly trade down the road for a contender. But yeah, I think this is the first time we're going to see a real steel rebuild in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's interesting that you get back. It brings you back in that conversation. What's most important for a franchise? The GM, the quarterback, the coach, and how those pieces play out. And I guess if you have a philosophy as ownership, say, okay, if we have our GM, that's going to be our key, that's going to be our pinnacle, and that's where we're going to focus on. Make sure the GM situation's right, and everything else will fall into place. He'll get a quarterback, he'll get the coach, and everything will come into place. Or is it can a team win without a full roster? We know the quarterback situation. If you don't have a quarterback that's at least serviceable, you're up against it for sure. But after that, has there been any signs of a team, maybe New England? I know they have some talent and they hit on their quarterback, but other than that, are they able to win just through coaching and some schemes and some other things, or preparation, or what are you getting out of the players? These are all professional players too. They're all drafted. They all probably have very similar physical talents, and I know there's some separate from others, but then what is it? Is it X's and O's, or execution, or your assistant coaches, or your offensive line coach? Go all the way down the line. The Eagles won a Super Bowl a year ago, probably because of their offensive line coach, in my opinion, is the best in the league, and he was able to do some tremendous things with those guys. So yeah, it's all. I think as a owner of a team, I think you have to come up with your concept of what works for your team, and I think Philadelphia, speaking for Philadelphia, okay, Harry Roseman is the guy. He's going to call the shots. He's going to dictate this thing, and we're going to put him in charge of the whole thing. And then you have Buffalo, who struggles a little bit, but like, all right, we'll fire the coach, we'll promote the GM and give him more power, and we'll try to keep going the course that we are right now. I don't know if that's the best plan.
Okay, let's get into the games now. We had last weekend, we had 4 exciting games. We had the Denver Broncos outlasting the Buffalo Bills 33-30 in overtime. The one big problem for the Broncos now is that Bo Nix is out for the rest of the year. Their starting quarterback this week will be Jarrett Stidham. And what's next for the Bills, Pat?
For the Bills, I think I said this last year. I'm like, where do they go from here? Like, they've done everything, they built it up. I actually think they overachieved this year because I don't think their talent level was what it was last year. So I give them credit for overperforming this year. But unless you hit it in the lottery or the draft, where you get some wide receivers in there and some help on the defensive end too, because the defense I don't think was quite as good this year as it's been. I don't know where this team goes. Like I said, all right, now you got rid of the coach, so maybe you bring somebody else in, and that voice, and that can happen. You can get a guy that, just a new voice and a new outlook on things can regenerate a team, but they need some wide receivers, number one. They need to give Josh Allen a ton of help, more than he had this year. And the problem we got with the Bills, though, and this is why we brought the same thing I brought up with Detroit, same thing. Other teams in that division are now getting better. New England's better than they are now. So it's not like you're just going to snap your fingers and win the division, and then we got to figure out how to beat Kansas City. Now they got to worry about New England. I mean, the Jets are going to stink again. In Miami, I don't know what's going to happen with them either. They got a new coach too coming in, but Buffalo now has somebody in that division they got to worry about. So I don't know what happens to them, to tell you the truth, Mike. You can get lucky in the draft, and you can get some impact players right away. The biggest advantage they have is Josh Allen. Like I said, I think still has 2 or 3 years left in his prime, and that's huge. But I don't know, unless you get some additional players that can take some of the load off of him, much like it happened with John Elway towards the end of his career. When he got Davis in there and their defense became really good and it took a lot of the heat off of him, that's probably what needs to happen with Josh Allen.
Probably that Netflix documentary on Elway was really good. I watched a couple days ago. And this is the sad part for the Bills, too, also. Like, this was probably Josh Allen's best chance to get to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
Like, you look at the AFC going forward, okay? Ravens still there. Pats are better, as you mentioned. The Chiefs will be back at some point because Mahomes still alive. He's still breathing. The Chargers are pretty good. So the environment around them is just getting better and better and better. So the best chance for them to get to the Super Bowl was probably come and gone. Like I said, I don't even think – like I came to here saying that, okay, Super Bowl Buster McDermott. Coming to playoffs saying the same thing. But now I'm not even sure that's the right move because, the guy had, 13 guys on IR coming to this game, and they almost won the game. I mean, Josh Allen did not play well. He had 4 turnovers in that game. And you could argue 10 of those points that Denver got, was because of things that he did. So, but, I will say, enough about Buffalo a second. Denver, I will say, my reason I picked the Bills last week to win was because of the fact that I didn't trust Bo Nix. Bo Nix played very well in this game on Saturday. I think he played pretty well, actually. I mean, he managed the game.
Some bad ones. He's a
one back, but he managed
really bad
but
one.
he managed the game well, made timing throws when he needs to, but he's out for this game this week against New England. We'll get to the preview in a second, but I don't know. It's really sad for Josh Allen because there's a world he might be Dan Marino. He might be the guy who doesn't have a ring anymore, honestly. So.
Are you saying it's because of the team around him or because of him?
Because of the team around him, not because of him.
Okay.
He's good enough to win a title, absolutely.
And I'm a big Josh Allen fan, huge, and the tears were Josh Allen's crying, the players are crying, my kid's crying, like everybody's crying. Like he missed throws. 2 or 3 throws that changed the game. He did. He missed them. He missed those throws. And, I know you want to point fingers and say this and this. Denver probably shouldn't have won that game. There was a couple instances where he makes a throw, a specific throw, where guys are running free and they just win the game in overtime, and he didn't make those throws. So, is he going to be good for the next 2 or 3 years? Sure, but this, like you said, they had no gauntlet. You talk about running the gauntlet in order to win a Super Bowl. We've seen teams do it. The Giants did it and ran up against some good teams. This thing was so wide open. When you look at the teams that we're talking about left in this thing, Denver, Seattle, New England, and you're like, this would have been a year like. This is the year. You have to get through there. You have to make those plays in order to get over the hump, and I know there's a lot of hate for some of the quarterbacks, namely Jalen Hurts in the NFL. Hurts? Right. A lot of the media hates Jalen Hurts. It's just the way it is. All right, so Josh Allen, he's getting a free pass on the way that ended up. But if you look at it, Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl championship and MVP before Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. Go down the list. I want a guy who can make the play when you need him to make the play. I don't want him to make all the plays. Make the play when you need him to, and Josh has to be that guy in order to get over the hump. And I think he missed his opportunity, and I think we're going to be a couple years removed from them getting back to that same spot.
Okay, and other NFL news, the Seattle Seahawks just pummeled the 49ers 41-6. Pat, is there anything the 49ers can do other than just getting healthy?
I was going to say, just get healthy. I still believe in the 49ers. I think they've got a good nucleus of guys that are good playmakers. I still don't know about Shanahan in these circumstances where, he gets to a Super Bowl and self-destructs or whatever. but his schemes in generally – during the regular season are really good. That's why these guys they're waiting to interview their offense and defensive coordinators and all that kind of stuff because the league sees what he's able to do there. Now this was they just ran into it. But when you run an opening kickoff back, that is very, very hard to reset that tone.
Exactly.
Especially in a place like Seattle, which is unbelievably loud. So I think, it was just one of those games where the injuries piled up. Purdy did not look great. And, and McCaffrey was battling something, which he normally is through the whole game. Their defense was banged up as well. So if they could, Kittle was out. If they can actually get healthy for at least some part of next year, I would absolutely put them right back up. They're going to, again, their core group of guys is still relatively young there. It could help if they could get a pretty good receiver. The one guy they have, Jennings, it's not too bad. But if Ayuk could ever come back from whatever's going on with him, I think San Fran's right there. The problem with San Fran is they're playing in the best division in football, and that division, Stafford's getting a little bit older there, but Seattle's, I don't think they're going anywhere. So that's the tough part for San Fran. They are in the toughest division in football, and that division should stay pretty good through the next 3 or 4 years. So I just think this is, one of those things where Seattle just got the momentum right off the bat and didn't let it go. So that can happen to you. I
mean, it's as simple as they ran to the buzzsaw. I mean, if these teams were even and healthy, if San Francisco's healthy, this could be an even game, maybe a different result because San Francisco's right there. Unlike Buffalo, I think San Francisco's still right where they need to be, and obviously in the best division of football. Obviously, you see 2 of the teams playing for the NFC title game, both playing there currently. So, and I got to tell you, he won't win Coach of the Year probably, but Kyle Shanahan, did to me, I think one of the best coaches I've ever seen in one single year. Again, 12-5 in a year where Brock Purdy missed, I think, more than half the year with all the injuries. Fred Warner, all the best players didn't play outside McCaffrey. And you have Mac Jones holding the 4th down. He did a good job this year. So the fact that we're even in this game to begin with is miraculous. Okay, they probably shouldn't we won against Philadelphia last week.
Probably not.
Much less. Yeah. So,
but they did.
I mean, but they did. But so at this point, they're playing with house money. I mean, me saying that it'd be a one-score game was me wish-casting a good game. But the reality is Seattle – the thing with Seattle right now is that they're 14-3, number one seed in the NFC. But what you've seen this year is that as the year's gone on, they've just gotten better. They've gotten stronger. And so I think at this point, like, they're probably the Super Bowl favorites right now to win the whole damn thing. But, chalking it to a buzzsaw. San Fran, there's no issues here. They got probably the best coach of football, named Andy Reid. And honestly, I would tip my cap to the Niners for what they did this year.
Congratulations to the Niners for winning their Super Bowl the week before. They went into Philadelphia. That was, for some reason, they probably had that circled. And,
I tried to warn you, Noah.
They celebrated like it was their Super Bowl. Congratulations. Shout out to San Fran. You won your Super Bowl in Philadelphia last week. Now you're in, as Ernest was saying, Cancun with the Philadelphia Eagles side by side. That's first. Congratulations to them. And second.
That doesn't seem sincere.
Not at all.
Nah.
Everybody should want to achieve certain things in life, and San Fran wanted to go into Philly and beat Philly, and they did that. And Shanahan should be just sleep easy for the next until next season, knowing that he was able to pull that off. Congratulations to him.
You seem mad.
I'm not mad. Secondly, is there any real scientific proof? They're talking about San Fran and all these tendon injuries and all these Achilles and stuff that they practice next to some power issue or power grid or something. And they are really focused on this, and the media is starting to circle on this. They have more ACLs and MCLs and all these things than anybody else, and it's not even close. Is there any scenario where there's any science where they move that thing or move the practice? And it might be weird and it might just be in their heads. But, like, literally,
I wouldn't rule against it at this point.
See, I understand that. I understand it because everybody always asks me if I grew up under power lines for some reason. I don't understand what that meant. But I get it.
Or Giant Stadium where everybody was getting cancer, that was, all those players are. I don't know. Who knows now? I would probably get if something is really going on. I would gauge it's more. Whatever they're however they're training, or whoever their strength guy is doing something unorthodox that other teams don't do, and for whatever reason that's weakening their legs or something.
You want to talk about firing guys? Fire that guy every year until they get healthy, because they've been running like that for 5, 6, 7 years in a row.
It's been a trend.
If the same guy, I'm going to look at that up as soon as we get off this show. If the same guy is there, the GM should get fired too, because the strength and conditioning guys causing issues.
Exactly. John Lynch, really? It's fired John Lynch.
Is that who it is?
Yeah, he's done a great job there.
How long has he been there? No,
I think like 8, 9 years now. 8, 9 years.
Conditioning guy.
8, 9 years.
Well, the New England Patriots, they defeated the Houston Texans 28-16 with 4 interceptions from C.J. Stroud. Is it time to move on from him, Pat?
I was going to say, some of these teams, like we talked about San Fran. I think they're going to be fine. Buffalo's got some issues, but they still have the quarterback. Houston's one of those teams, though. Stroud looked bad in both of these playoff games. I mean, the fact that he just got lucky, he was playing the Steelers that didn't have any kind of offensive firepower to beat him. But he looks nervous to me, like super nervous. Like, I get it, you're a little jittery and stuff. That one throw he had where he was on, like, the 5-yard line, basically just throw it up. You can't do that. That is like – it ended up being a pick six. I'm like, that your defense is world class. You got the number 1 defense in the NFL. You literally just don't have to screw this up. At some point, you're hoping Drake May, which he didn't look super comfortable either in a lot of the situations, but just let the game play out, and you could almost hand the ball off 30 times and probably have a better chance than him dropping back and. It looked like he had the Kenny Pickett small hands thing where the ball was just coming out of his hands. I hate saying this about a young guy, especially a guy that looked pretty good his first year and came back a little bit the second year, but he don't look like anybody that can lead you to anything in the playoffs. That's beyond like just a couple little tweaks and things like that. He's making horrendous decisions, and he doesn't have the physical ability to overcome some stuff. If I was Houston with that defense, and things only stay together for so long, man, they got to find a remedy and quick. And I'm not sure if it's him. I think they would have been much better. I keep making a joke like it's Miles Davis. They would have been much better off putting Davis
second half.
Put him in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's on the coach a little bit. That's where you have to sense what's going on in the game. And he threw those interceptions in the first half. You don't have it. You can't throw 4 interceptions in the first half. Out. This is it. Season's over if we don't do something here. So, Houston. I know it's a joke. Houston, we have a problem. They do. They got to they got to figure that out and quick. But if I'm them and I got that defense, and you might only have that for a couple of years like that, you got to get somebody in there that can at least just hand the ball off and make short throws and not implode like he did.
And the defense, while they were in that game still, that was still a close game because the defense played very well, played above their skis because they had to. But you got to give credit to the pass defense, too, also. Their front four was in his grill also a lot in that first half. And it actually got worse and worse and worse as the game progressed. But we discussed this last week, too, with Bryce Young in the situation with his contract and whatnot. Because to me, he's not special. And they're at a crossroad now whether or not to extend him or to give him pick his option, whatever. Same as C.J. Stroud, same situation. I think Stroud is better than Bryce Young, but there is something to be said right now that currently, if looking at the track, Bryce Young is kind of doing this a little bit. He's improved, certainly. Remember, he got benched in year 2, whereas C.J. Stroud, since his rookie year, is kind of starting to take a little bit of a nosedive here. So something to be said about that. You ride it out with C.J. Stroud. 3 years C.J. Stroud, 3 playoff appearances, 3 playoff wins each year. So there is something to be said about that. But at the same time, is he worth $40, $50, $60 million a year? Right now, no. So pick up the option, see where it goes from there, and then call it a day.
He had one job for that game, and that was not to turn the ball over. Literally, probably before that game, the coach probably said, all right, we have a defense here. Don't overplay yourself, and he did exactly that. As soon as when he was getting pressured and he had nowhere to go, he literally just chucked that thing up. And it's some kind of mental breakdown where you don't make those plays. You stop those plays from happening before a kid gets to high school or even in Pee Wee. Like if it's dead, it's dead. It's just go down and take the sack.
Yeah.
Those things, and he threw a couple more that probably should have got picked off right after that. So yeah, I do think they have a window here, but I don't. You pick Stroud and then you put all these. He has his contract already, yeah.
Well, it's just year 3, so they can extend him or give him your option. You can't cut him out. You have to write it out.
Signing this guy, you have to see what he. I firmly believe that quarterbacks get graded on all these things. My biggest grade is can you win the big game, and there's guys that made a living off of that, and Stroud's not going to do it.
Yeah, shout out to John Bunner. He checked it. I didn't think the chat was working, but he had to hate on you. Yeah. But Jalen Hurts is overrated. That's what he says. Yeah. Now let's move into the next game. The Rams survived a scare to beat the Bears 20-17 on one of the most exciting plays we've ever seen from Caleb Williams. Can we finally give Caleb his flowers, Pat?
Absolutely. And I was one of the guys, I was down on him. I'm like, the first couple of years he's in the league, I'm like, he just doesn't seem like he gets it. He got the talent. He's able to make some throws and stuff. But this year, I thought he made tremendous strides, and I'm going to give credit to Ben Johnson on that for figuring out, all right, let's put him in the best position that we can to make him successful. And that's what you need to do with these young quarterbacks is find out what they're good at and let them do that. That throw, just before the end of the game, that's a top 5, like, mind-bending. I mean, he's running back to the 50-yard line and literally just heaves it up and has enough arm strength that you could see that the defensive back thought there's no way he's getting it back, middle of the end zone, and did. I mean, that's in a weird way. It's a shame they ended up losing that game because it takes a little bit away from that throw. But when you make throws like that's magical stuff. That happens to special players. And much like we were talking about C.J. Stroud, this is the opposite of that. If I'm Chicago, man, this should be a launching pad year. This is like now we got a little bit of a taste. We saw where we could go. Yeah, they won a lot of close games and stuff like that this year. Maybe that doesn't happen next year. But maybe they start beating teams by more than one score next year when this kid realizes what kind of talent he's got. So if I'm a Bear fan with all the stuff going on, I'm probably the most optimistic about what they can do in the future because I think Caleb Williams finally gets it and understands what he needs to do to win. And Rams got really lucky in that one. If the Bears would have went for 2 there, I think they get it and they win that game. So kudos to them. Rams are a good team. They're one of those teams because Stafford's getting a little bit older. Their window's pretty short here. But if you're a Bears fan, I think you got a lot of optimism and good times ahead with this kid.
It goes to show you what coaching does, because Caleb Williams, you watch his tape from last year, it's really no different. He was still chaotic last year and this year. The difference is the chaos this year seems less chaotic. Like it seems more timed. It seems much more calm. He's actually watching the field better this year than last year. So the plays are still the same. It's just that I think the direction they're going with Ben Johnson has changed a lot. And I think I mentioned last week on the show, and I'll bring it up again to you, Pat. There's a world, I think, when we're doing like our quarterback rankings next year, top 10 quarterbacks in the league. There's a world I see Caleb Williams landing on a lot of top 10 lists next season because of moments like this, like last week, like most of the year. And and we have all the guys possibly retiring and whatever. I think there's a world where Caleb Williams is looked at as a top 10 quarterback in the league now because of what he did this year.
Yeah, I think Noah needs to apologize. Look in the camera. If Caleb's watching, just tell him that he's a good quarterback.
I'm going to explain this as clear as I possibly can. There's levels to this thing, okay? There's levels. There's winning regular season games and winning games and all that stuff. There's levels. You have to progress, and you have to keep progressing, and the great ones do progress, and they get over the hump, and they learn from it. Show me that you're going to get better than you were last year. We've seen the flashes in the pan, Stroud and all these guys for 1 year, 2 years. We have the thing in Washington where he came out and he's like, oh, this guy's the greatest. And then he hardly even saw the field. The next year he's banged up and maybe not making the best decisions. There's levels to this. You have to keep progressing. And the work that you put in now, you could come in with natural talent and all these things, and then all film gets on there, and whether you like to make certain throws or how your progressions work and all these things. Show me what you do next. Am I ready to anoint him as not yet? He wasn't the best quarterback on the field that day. Stafford, and his numbers weren't terrific, but he made the throws when he needed to make the throws. And I'm still wondering about the last interception that Caleb threw late in that game, and they're trying to pin it on the wide receiver. And whether he followed through on that, and the jury's out on that as far as I'm concerned, whether that was a bad throw or a forced ball.
What do you think?
How about this is what I think. I think they were in field goal range. I think he didn't have to make that throw at all. I think there were guys in the vicinity. The guy wasn't open. I think there's better decisions made. They literally could have kicked a field goal from that same position if he throws the ball away or whatever. So I get it that you blame the receiver, he stopped running or whatever, but there were guys in the vicinity to end that game for you, and you had a field goal lined up, and those are the plays that I judge quarterbacks on, those plays specifically.
So we got two big injuries going into the championship weekend. Bo Nix obviously out. The starting quarterback for the Broncos is going to be Jarrett Stidham. And then another person that's out is Zach Charbonnet, the backup running back for the Seahawks. Of course, K9, he's still healthy, so they still have a good starter in that. But the Broncos did open up the practice window on J.K. Dobbins, so that's good news for them.
So that injury, they run that play. What a weird call, first off. You run that play, and you're running a quarterback like sweep or something. I don't know if they ran that all year to try to line the ball up, and he gets wrapped up and he breaks that thing. But interesting story of that. So it's the Patriots in Denver, and Stidham was drafted by the Patriots, and they never found him to be good enough. And they're not talking the story up enough, in my opinion. They didn't find him good enough, and they moved on from him and the other guys there. And now you have May versus Stidham. When Stidham at one point was like, hey, this could be our guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. He has nearly not enough reps, so I don't know how that thing's going to go.
I brought up my show yesterday on my podcast with my Zach yesterday about the Stidham thing because the Josh McDaniel connection there too also. So there's some storyline there to look at. That's all.
Yeah. Awesome. Now let's talk about that championship weekend in the AFC. On Sunday at 3 p.m., we have the number 2 seed Patriots at Denver in the 1 seed, where the Patriots, I believe, because of the injury, are going in favored by 5.5 points. What do we like here, Pat?
Well, I saw a stat there that the last time a backup quarterback came into a championship game without any snaps the whole year was Roger Staubach in 1972 against the Washington Redskins. Wow. And they got beat 26-3. So I do not feel that here, though. I actually, if this game was in New England, I'd be like, New England's going to romp. They're going to kill them. Denver is a weird place to play, much like Seattle is. There's a tremendous home field advantage there. The air is thin, all that kind of stuff going on. If Denver can get through the first quarter and it's close, if it's 3-3 or 0-0 or they're losing by 3 points or something like that, if they can get through that first quarter and settle down, I think they got a chance here. I think Peyton is going to come up with a run game, short passing game, anti-C.J. Stroud. We're not going to turn the ball over at all. New England's defense is excellent. They're a lot better than people think they are. This will probably be a much lower scoring game than whatever the line is. I think Denver can, and because Stidham has played for New England, whatever that means, I don't think he's going to go in there and be like, he knows at least some of those guys, and he knows somewhat, even though Vrabel's in there now and all that, he's not going to be like in shock and awe. He's played before. So I think Denver can give them a game. I don't know if they can win. I think this is going to be a better game than people think. It's going to be low scoring. I'm going to go with Denver here. 5.5 is a lot in Denver. Now, who knows? It could be a complete blowout. But I just don't see that. I think this is going to be a better game than people think. And I think Stidham will actually play okay. He's not going to light the world on fire. Probably throw less than 20 passes. But if their run game can do anything and that crowd gets into it, this New England team has never been here before. Drake May's never been here before. If it's Tom Brady, yeah, they're going to kill him. That ain't this situation. So I'm giving Denver a chance in this one. I'm going to take them.
And in public review too, because the line did open up at I think 7 at one point. Like I checked the lines like even after the game was over on Sunday. It was 7, and it's not down to 5.5. I added 5 actually last night. So the public review on that one, and I gotta tell you, I have a weird feeling about this game on Sunday. Like everybody is like digging the Broncos' grave and all this stuff, but again, Denver actually is a house of horrors for the Patriots historically too. Also, like Brady's lost a lot of big games there, including AFC title games against Peyton Manning and whatnot. I'm taking the Broncos here. I think their defense will rise up. I think, by the way, not for nothing, Drake May has not looked all that great in the playoffs so far. Like he's been okay at most. He made throws he needed to make, but he's playing against the banged up Chargers now, the banged up Texans and C.J. Stroud and whatever that was last week. I think Denver plays a clean game here, and I think they pull it out.
So I have a super interesting take on this. So over the course of all my 30 years in the gambling world, I've seen some crazy things and how pressure affects people. So there's golfers that I've seen go against better golfers, but the worst golfer tends to be not risk adverse, where he'll put up heaps of money and not be worried about losing at all, which puts pressure on the other guy, and the actual better golfer ends up losing because of the pressure. I've seen this. They talk about it all the time. You've heard them talk about the players. It's a weird dynamic. All right, so you wake up on Sunday morning and you're Stidham. Your whole entire net worth is on the line. If he pulls this thing out, it's worth tens of millions of dollars. It literally is, because he ends up with a contract, or he's like, Stidham can play football, and he ends up with a contract somewhere else. That happens. If he does not, and he absolutely is a dumpster fire in this game, then he is probably out of the NFL in a year or two, and he's selling cars somewhere at the local used car dealership. So we have to see him perform under pressure. I haven't seen good results when guys are under that fire for everything on the line. If you don't have a track record of that, and maybe somebody has some receipts that shows that he's done it in college or somewhere else, if you're not that guy who can absolutely play through that high tension position, it could get ugly, and it could get ugly in a hurry. So, yeah, I think I'm going with Denver on this one.
I think we've never seen a backup quarterback come in there. Now, granted, coming to the AFC title game is a little different.
Yeah.
But we've seen quarterbacks. Yeah. Both our teams have done it in the past. With Nick Foles recently and Hal Stetler. But, of course, that was Week 13, Week 14 situation versus the actual AFC title game.
Here's the best way to look at it. And Nick Foles said this. Nick Foles said he was in that same position that you're mentioning, right? And he comes in and he does that. He said his father told him to block out absolutely everything in the whole entire world. Forget the score, forget the game, where you're at, where you're playing, or what have. When the play is called, don't think about the time, the scoreboard, or anything. Think about that one specific play and that one specific play only, and then move on. And he said it worked wonders for him, and it did. He showed that.
Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots in a low-scoring game. I think they win by at least a touchdown in this one. Now we're going to move on to the NFC Championship game. That's going to be 6:30 on Fox on Sunday night, where you got the 5-seed Rams going in to Seattle to play the number 1 seed Seahawks that are favored by 2.5 points.
I really like Seattle in this game. I think the Darnold has gotten over whatever was going on in his head in the playoffs. Now, again, it could rear its head here. Rams are a good team. Don't get me wrong. Stafford's playing at a high level. But, man, Seattle, again, same thing, playing in Seattle. That is a different atmosphere. I went to a game there a few years ago, and people stand up the whole damn game. It's freezing, and they're standing up and yelling the whole game. There's never any, down moment at all. They're just screaming the whole time. It's a wacky place to play. And, if Seattle gets up like they did last week on the Rams, even though they're a veteran team and veteran quarterback and all that stuff, I just think it's going to be very difficult. I think Seattle's winning the Super Bowl. whoever wins in the AFC, New England or Denver, especially if it's Denver, I think Seattle's going to cream them in the Super Bowl. So I'm going all in now on Seattle. I just think they're playing. Darnold's playing at a great level. It's great coaching. I know they got the injury, but the other back is really good. They got Cooper Kupp in there. They got some great receivers. Their defense is underrated. Rams are going to have a tough time here. It might be a close game for a while, but I think Seattle just wears them down and ends up covering that spread easily, and I think they win by at least 7.
So both matches they had this year came down to the final play. Not even the final drive, final play. So they both nipped and tucked. Each won a game at home. The last one was a classic, of course, the one in Seattle. But to me, what I'm looking at is the trends. The trends right now are as follows. I said earlier, Seattle is just, as the season's gone on, they're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The Rams now have kind of sort of peaked out a little bit. They're still winning games, but their defense has played less aggressive. They're not as good as they were back in November. So there's a little bit of I'm not saying a downstroke, but a little bit of this. So that's what I'm looking at here. Seattle is just, I mean, like I said, I know they beat a San Francisco team that was banged up, but 41-6 to 41-6. The optics here are as follows. I look at the trends. Right now they open in line 1.5. Seattle. They already moved a point to Seattle again. So now it's 2.5. The more I get closer to this game, I like Seattle. Like, are the Rams the more complete team of the two? Probably. But the things that Seattle does well, they do very well, and they can envelop everything that the Rams do well. So I'm taking Seattle win this game. Honestly, I think Seattle win this game by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, if Matt Stafford gets hot in this game, there's nothing you could possibly do to stop him from winning this game.
Right.
I've seen him, and we were lucky to get out of there last year with the throws he was making, the plays he's making, and he's got receivers, he's got the coach, and it's so hard to go with when you're going to pick Darnold over Stafford is a tough play for me. Mm-hmm. Like, especially, Stafford's getting 2.5 points and they're playing good football. Like, and they've been here before, and they've been in these pressure situations, and they've proven themselves in these pressure situations. Stafford already has his Super Bowl, right? He already has his championship, and Darnold might be in the same spot if he is again if he's a pile of trash in this one, like he has in some big games before. Then he's looking at wondering what he's going to be doing as a backup quarterback somewhere in the NFL after this one. So I can't find a reason to go without Stafford. I can't find a reason to go against him. I'm going with LA here.
I'm going with LA also. I think Stafford has all the weapons. I'm taking both the road teams in the conference championship week. And now let's talk about Hard Rock Bet. The current offer that Hard Rock Bet has is if you make a first deposit of at least $10 and place a cash wager of $5 or more, your first bet wins. You receive $150 in bonus bets, and those are 6 separate $25 bonus bets. That will be a great time to do it with championship weekend coming up. So pull out your phone right now and go head over that QR code and sign up today, and that's offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Got to be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to wager. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Call 1-833-PLAY-WISE. Now let's move on to talk about college football. That championship game the other night, the big win for Indiana, going 16-0 to win their first national championship against Miami. What are we going to expect from Mendoza in the NFL, Pat?
That's a good question. I like him. I don't think he's John Elway or Dan Marino. He's sort of stiff to me. He reminds me a little bit of Kirk Cousins. But he's a winner. He's a gamer. Those are huge qualities to have in the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are gamers and winners and stuff like that. But if they don't have the basic amount of talent, that doesn't mean anything in the NFL. I think he does. I think he has the basic amount of talent to do stuff in the NFL. But I don't think you're going to see him lighten up scoreboards or things like that. He's just going to be a winner. Now you go to the Vegas, that's going to be a tough challenge to overcome that, because you've just got a history there, recent history especially, of just not being winners. So he's going to have to overcome that. But I think he's going to be a good to better than average NFL quarterback. And if you can get the pieces around him, he can certainly win a Super Bowl with just the mentality I've seen on display with him. I thought that was a really good game. I give Miami a ton of credit. I thought they were going to get blown out. So their defense is a lot better than I thought they were. The only question I had for that whole game is when Indiana had the ball and they're moving down the field and there's like a minute 50 to go. Miami still had one timeout left, and it was 3rd and 5, and I'm like, perfect time here for Signetti to call. They've been doing those little flare outs and stuff, back shoulder stuff, and they just had some great play calls on 3rd downs in this game. And I'm like, all right, coach, get the first down and win the game. And they ran the ball, and I'm like, coach, you can't give this team a minute 50. Yeah, they're not going to have timeouts, but you can't give them a minute 50 now. Beck threw a terrible interception there at the end, but they were moving down the field. And I'm just like, man, you lose this game 28-27, you're never going to forgive yourself. You had 3rd and 5 with a great quarterback and great receivers. Throw the ball there and win the damn game. I get that you're going to give Miami a timeout if you don't get it, but man, it just was so anti the way Indiana seemed to be the whole year, where they went in that shell, and I'm like, oh my God, don't run the ball here. Try and win the damn game. That was it, though. I mean, I'm still glad Miami won, or Indiana won, but yeah, I think Mendoza's going to be a good quarterback, and if he gets the pieces around him and gets a good coach, he can absolutely be successful in the NFL.
We saw that twice in the playoffs, actually, too. Not just the game on Miami, Indiana, but even with Sean McVay against the Bears. Because the play that Williams had at the end of the game doesn't happen if they stay aggressive and go for the first down and call it a day. I don't get these coaches getting very scared at the end of the game. Just go for the first down, stay on the gas, and call it a day. Timeouts don't matter. You know what I mean? But Mendoza, if you asked me this question a month ago, I would have said no way. I don't see NFL quarterback in him. He's a great college kid, but I just don't see that translating. Since watching him in the playoff, I'm like, there's things there. I'm seeing that he may not be the most talented guy in the world, but again, neither was Tom Brady, and look what happened. So, there's intangibles there. He's a leader. He seems to be someone you can represent your franchise well, and all those things matter. So I think at the very least, he's going to be like a year-to-year Pro Bowl every year. He's going to be like all this. Probably not, but it's going to be a solid 10-year veteran that can probably, when you take it to a deep playoff run, maybe even surprise with a Super Bowl. With his intangibles, yes, I can see that. So if I'm Vegas, I take him. Yeah. Just take him.
This game showed me Italian coaches are best. You got Signetti, you got Sirianni, you got Carbone, all these great Italian coaches. Whatever this guy did, I would love. You talk about coaching philosophies or what happened, and everybody's looking at this guy and how he's coaching. He did a miraculous job, whatever he did, from the time where he stood on the basketball court and was like, yeah, we hate these teams, and he's calling out Michigan, and I'm like, that's wild. But then he backs it up by winning the national championship, going undefeated. It's amazing. Probably the most interesting thing about the whole game, and you don't see this a lot. Miami's driving down the field for possibly the game-winning score, or go-ahead score. He calls a timeout, which was different than you normally see. Normally you let the offense sweat it, and you don't give him any time to catch your breath or whatever. He calls a timeout. Whatever he said in there and regrouped, or he saw something or knew something was coming the very next play, interception, and the game's over.
Yeah.
And that's so far outside of scope of what you typically see in coaches, and what an amazing job. So you talk about coaching carousel in the NFL. Somebody should take the offensive line coach from that team. There's guys all over the place, the quarterback coach or whatever. They need to pilfer that thing right away and get those guys in the NFL. I don't know how the quarterback's going to do and how that's going to translate. But, again, he has that thing. Can you win and can you make plays when you need to make plays? And he's done that. Shout out to them. What an amazing job.
Question for the panel real quick, though. Signetti, because I asked this question on my pod last night. Is Signetti right now, because there's a lot of great coaches in college football right now, but this 2-year odyssey of the Hoosiers is something to be studied. Is Signetti right now the best coach in college football? I say yes.
Yeah, who would you put above him? I mean, he took a team that had the most losses in football, in Division I football.
Doesn't make sense.
And won a national championship with them. So, there's nobody.
And unbeaten
close.
in an era where with NIL, unbeaten in an era with parity, and you 16-0. It's amazing.
There were stories coming out because it's so surprising what he did. They're trying to say cheating and playbooks and other stuff. They're trying to come up with stuff because it doesn't make sense. But those kids and those people in the locker room and the culture that he built that quickly, there needs to be studies done on that.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to our bracket winner, Rakisha Brown, who ended up having Indiana to win it all. that we had a lot of people that did very well. Alexis did well. The Robster did well. We had a lot of people that actually had Indiana. Noah actually did well, too. I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, you weren't.
But he actually scored 825 points, so congratulations to Rakesha Brown, who is our big winner in the bracket contest. Now let's move on to our favorite portion of the show, and that's what we call Quick Picks. Let's go. New England.
Let's go.
At Denver, 3 o'clock Sunday. New England's favored by 5.5.
I just think something's happening in the cosmos, Mike, that Stidham, he's going to take time off from Transporter 5, and he's going to play in this game. And I think he's going to manage the game very well. Payne's going to have a good game plan for him, and Denver's going to somehow win this game. They will get killed in the Super Bowl, but they will win this game.
Let's be clear. Jared Stidham's not a scrub. I watched him in college. He's a good quarterback. Give me the Broncos here. I'm with you, Pat. I think there's something. I have a weird feeling about this.
There's no pressure on him. There's no.
That's the best part.
I disagree with you. No, if you were saying there's, I actually think there's no pressure on him at all. No one expects literally anything out of this guy. So if he can hand the ball off and throw a 5-yard out, he'll be gold. So I think Peyton will do that. I think it'll be a very, very conservative offense. But with Denver's defense, that's all you need to do. Mm-hmm. So I think Denver's going to win the game.
I think there's a chance his first 5-yard out is going to go the other way for 6.
You could be right.
I'm going to go with the Pats minus the points.
I'm taking the Pats in a low-scoring game in the AFC Championship. Now let's move on to the NFC. That's 6:30 on Sunday. The Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 2.5.
I'm on the Darnold train. Don't screw me on this, Sam. You better look good. If you see ghosts in this game, you're right. Noah's right. You're going to be in backup heaven after this. So you better win this game. Your team's got every momentum. You're at home. The Rams are a very good team. Don't get me wrong, but you played them twice. You beat them. You know what you need to do. You don't win this game at home. You do have a lot of pressure on you, but I think you can handle it. I'm taking Seattle.
So both matchups came down to the final play. Both teams won each game, but I'm following the trends here. I just think Seattle's cooking the right time. The Rams sort of not down complaining, but they've peaked out a little bit since November. So I'm going to go with the team that's hot right now. Give me Seattle.
Yeah, me and Matt Stafford had beef for years because we were always battling on the turf there trying to win the Super Bowl. But I don't have anybody in the battle this year. I'm going to go with Stafford, and he's moving up on my list quickly as one of my favorites in the NFL.
That's great.
Yeah, I think Stafford's got a lot of weapons. I'm going to take him on the road, and that was Quick Picks for Championship Week in the NFL. Now I cooked up a little sports bet for y'all. I got the Patriots winning. I got under 42.5 points. I got an R.J. Harvey touchdown, and I got Diggs over 45.5 receiving yards. That is plus 1647, $25 to win 436.
Wow.
And what I think is a pretty realistic bet.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything? Pat, you got any sports bets this
weekend?
weekend?
I'm going back to hockey, which I know people don't bet on a ton of, but the Panthers do not look good, folks. I keep telling you, I'm very, very close to saying they're not making the playoffs. They got shellacked by San Jose the other night. Now, they're very good after losses. They generally rebound after a loss, but Kachuk finally came back and didn't matter to them. I just think the injuries have cost them. They got creamed by the Hurricanes 9-1, and Bobrovsky actually got into a fight in this last game.
Yeah,
I think as a carryover from the 9-1 shellacking. So I think they're losing their composure a little bit. I'm not even sure who they're playing next, but whoever they are, even though they're good after losses, this team they're starting to crater. Take whoever they're playing. For the foreseeable future against the Panthers. They just don't look good to me.
Even some of the most loyal Panther fans that are like the biggest homers in the world agree with you. Are saying this to me now. Like, yeah, they don't see a playoff team this year. So that's sad to say.
It is because they have talent, but
absolutely. Is it Kachuk back this week?
He's already played. He played against San Jose.
Okay.
He was okay, but
maybe it's a little too late. I have one single bet. To close out college football this year. I will look at all the futures for next year. I went down the stat. So right now, 1 and 2 is Ohio State and Indiana as the two favorites to win the title next year. But I scrolled down to see whether some value. I love value in this podcast. Yeah. Miami plus 2,000 to win the Natty next year. Here's the thing: they play in the ACC. The ACC sucks, so they're virtually guaranteed to get into the dance number one. Okay, and then you got to figure, okay, maybe win 2 or 3 games here, and you find something in the Natty. Who knows? I'm gonna bet Miami to win a national title next year. Bet $100 to make $2,000.
Can I book that for you? I'll book it. We'll book it. I'll book it. We'll go on hard rock that out.
Yeah, do it.
Thing. All right, so I'm going to go with betting against quarterbacks. So I'm going to go taking the Pats -5.5 and Stidham throwing an interception. That's almost – I do not see a scenario where Stidham does not throw an INT. If you got to double your money, take everything, put on Stidham 1 INT. I don't know how it doesn't happen. And then I'm going to take the Rams +2.5 and Darnold, who's thrown 5 in a game before, him throwing an INT.
Against the Rams, too.
For $50, you win $300.
Okay.
Easy bet.
Not a bad
just
bet.
Root against guys. It's fun sometimes.
That's the best way.
Bobby, that
Baker,
that's
for you, Baker.
That 5-pick game talking about that he had was against the Rams.
Yeah.
For the record.
I totally understand that because we've all been rooting against you for a long time.
For sure. It's fun,
now,
right?
and
It's enjoyable.
great, especially last week.
What is there if you don't have adversity? You need it.
So let's talk about what's going on here, including the January high hands. That's going on right now. New Year, new wins. The big cash giveaway on January 31st. We also have a really nice charity poker tournament coming up this Sunday for the Fallen Firefighters. That's going to be coming up this Sunday, and it's all for a great cause. You're not going to want to miss it. Come on out for the Fallen Firefighters. That is coming up this Sunday in the poker room. You can get more information right there on our website at pbkennelclub.com. There it is, January 25th. The registration starts at 11:30, and you can go ahead and sign up for that now. The Fallen Firefighter Poker Classic.
It's always one of our, if not the best. It's been the best, and they do things with cancer research for the firefighters who tend to get cancer from fire trucks.
It's an awesome organization. Cards in the air at 12:30. Go to our website for more info. And we got a lot of good paddock shows coming up, including Chris McDonald. We just announced our St. Patrick's Day. We have the big game party coming up. Everything is pointing to the paddock. We also have the Studio 54.
Yeah.
We have the ELO band coming up. We have Alternate Eagles coming up. We got so much going on in the paddock. And, of course, the big game party is coming up February the 8th. And now let's talk about our final thoughts. What are we looking forward to this week, Pat?
Well, I mean, obviously we got the divisional or the AFC and NFC championships, and so there's obviously a ton of football still to go. I did want to make one quick observation, and maybe something we can talk about at a different show. Something is going on in college football that is very intriguing to me, and I think the NFL needs to take note of it. Dante Moore is the quarterback for Oregon, decided to go back to school. He was going to be a top 3 pick, but opted to go back to Oregon. Tristan Chambliss, who's the quarterback at Ole Miss, is suing the NCAA to get, I think, a 6th year to stay in college. You're starting to see some quarterbacks that would be high picks in the NFL draft opt to not go to the NFL. Why is that happening? Probably because they're going to be under rookie contracts and not make that much money, whereas if they stay in college, they could be making $5 to $10 million playing in college. The NFL needs to keep an eye on this. If these guys and I don't think there's laws that say you can only you must leave college after 4 years. Those are just NCAA rules. Guys can start suing now and be like, hey, I want 10 years of eligibility. And who's to say some court might say you can stay in college as long as you want. Beck admitted that he hasn't been in school for 2 years. These guys can make more money staying in college. Look at Tim Tebow. He could have had a 10-year career at Florida and been a multimillionaire and didn't do anything in the NFL. What I'm saying is NFL needs to be concerned at some aspect that guys are going to start opting to stay in college because they can make more money immediately. And here's the other thing. They got instant free agency. If they don't like what's going on at Oregon, Dante Moore can go somewhere else and make a ton more money there. And guess what? Indiana just won for the first time in 100 and some years. Alabama, Ohio State, they have more history than the Chicago Bears do. They've been around for 120 years. So this isn't like the XFL or USFL where you're trying to we got to get these guys to start cheering for the Birmingham Stallions. There are people that will root for Ohio State. If you want to keep Justin Fields there forever, they're going to root for him, and he'll be successful there. I'm just saying it's stuff to keep an eye on. The NFL is going to have to start looking at rookie contracts again because some of these guys are going to be like, you know what, I might just be an average NFL guy, but here I'm a hero and I can get paid a lot and stay here. And if I don't like it, I can go somewhere else. It's just something I think the NFL needs to be aware of.
Capitalism is great, isn't it? I'm going to go on the beaten path of this one here, actually. My final thoughts. Your Knicks are concerning me right now. They're 25-18. They lost 9 last 11 games. They are supposed to be the heavy favorites in the East, especially this year with the cakewalk and now with all the injuries in the Eastern Conference with key teams. And there are issues there. And I'm worried. I think this can get really bad really quickly. There's rumors about possibly the Knicks now re-energizing the idea of getting Giannis before the deadline in a couple weeks and trading Cat. Just saying that I'm keeping an eye on the Knicks this next couple games here because things are getting really bad because you're the favorites to go to the finals. And you guys are playing anything but right now. Detroit's better than you guys. I think Detroit beats you guys in a 7-game series personally, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm now that Pat brought that up, I'm thinking about I still have all my eligibility left. Yeah, like
get some NIL money.
Yeah, so I'm gonna spend my weekend looking at seeing who needs a quarterback or I don't know what I would play, but.
Yeah. Congratulations to my guy Andrew Jones, who's now going into the Baseball Hall
Only
of Fame.
2 guys.
Yeah, it's weird this year, but Andrew Jones, one of my favorite Braves, going into the Hall of Fame, and we can't wait to talk about baseball in the future.
Yeah.
With this crazy Kyle
The
Tucker
Mets.
now going to the
There
Dodgers,
will be a lockout,
the
Michael.
Mets. That's what Earnest is saying, but we'll talk about that in the coming weeks right here on PBKC Picks. Hope everybody has a great championship weekend. We're going to see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Have a great week, everybody.
Take care.
Go Broncos.
PBKC is your entertainment destination for poker, table games, OTB, Paddock live events, and exceptional eats. The Paddock Restaurant is perfect for meetings, corporate functions, parties, fundraising, and more. Call 561-683-2222, extension 199, and book your next event today. The Big Game Party is back in the Paddock Restaurant on February 8th with a $45 all-you-can-eat buffet, beer bucket specials with over 140 HD TVs and 3 huge screens. This is how the big game was meant to be. For more information, go to pbkennelclub.com.